massive action doesn't need to be something that's really complicated, not even something that's really difficult. It just needs to be something that you're really committed to, that you're really consistent in, something that's simple, but gets you going in the direction that you ultimately want to be headed in life.
Over 90% of businesses in the country never make it past the $1 million mark in revenue. If you're under that $1 million mark, unless you're really, really good at systematizing things and you are a master at recruiting and hiring and being able to, control the different levers of the business, chances are you're wearing multiple hats, if not all the hats. You're the solopreneur, you're the person, who's doing the marketing, you're doing the sales, you're doing this service, you're doing the manufacturing, like whatever it is, you're probably doing most, if not all of the business. And what we know as we've continued to have so many conversations with our guests who have grown and scaled is you can't do it all. Welcome to the Abundant Journey podcast, where we talk with incredible entrepreneurs who give world-class advice from their own journeys. I'm your host, Nick James, and I'm a commercial banker turned business owner, along with my co-host, Nick Aufenkamp. We want to help you grow and scale your business while not losing sight of what matters most. Join us as we learn from the experts what it takes to grow a $1 million business. It has been a minute since you have gotten an episode with just Nick and Nick, but that is going to be happening today. Thank you for hanging out with us, audience, guests, folks who like hanging out with us and listening to us talk week after week. I hope you have been enjoying the episodes of 2024, and we're excited about today's episode. But before that, Nick, how are you, my brother?
Dude, I'm good. It's hard to believe that there's like 60 days left in this year. And I think that as we start to get towards the end of the year and with fall and it being darker, it just puts me in more of a reflective mood. So I'm glad to be able to sit down with my friend, the one and only Nick James, and start to reflect. How about you, my friend? How are you?
Man, I'm feeling it too. It's the Northwest as we, throughout the year, give our audience regular touch points of like what the weather looks like around here. It's been dumping rain. And as you say, we are at that point of the year. It's darker. And I think you're right. Not only are we at a natural reflection point of the year and really going to kind of lay out, I think, in this episode where we're going in the 2025 with Abundant Journey. But what's also kind of unique is that we're approaching a big episode 100, and we're also approaching 2 years of doing this podcast, which is insane to think about.
Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, in some ways, it feels like the most obvious thing in the world that, of course, we're coming up on 2 years and of course, we're going to hit 100 episodes. And then in other ways, it feels like, man, that's really remarkable. Like when we set out to start doing this thing, how realistically did we think we were going to make it past 10 or 15 episodes? So it's funny to hold both of those things in tension. I don't know if you feel that as well. But I think that the fact that we've been going for almost 2 years is a testament to just how natural it's been, how valuable it's been for us personally, and a testament to just we've been so fortunate to have such incredible guests that we've been able to talk with. So I know I covered a lot of ground in just a couple of sentences there. But I think that it would be fun to probably dive down into maybe a couple of those things. What do you think?
I agree. I think we've talked, and it'd be fun to do an episode just reflecting on the lessons we've learned from podcasting for 2 years. And I think we're going to do that. But to kind of put a little treat out there and just again, as we're reflecting, I would say one of the things is we set out and had some huge expectations on audience size. And, we figured we'd be Joe Rogan level at this point. But 2 years in, we're learning what a marathon truly looks like. And we've enjoyed the engagement from the audience. We've, just as much or more enjoyed building relationships with the guests we've had on. And we've had some incredible conversations. But I would just say that, one of the huge things for me is, like you're saying, wow, it's been 2 years, but also it's felt like it at times as we've continued week in and week out to have these kind of conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man.
What about for you?
That'll be. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like we should save some of it for a true deep dive reflection on the lessons that have been learned. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think what surprised me is that the pure numerical growth has been slower than what we thought. Now, not slow compared to what people told us it would be. Everybody says that podcasting is a grind and that acquiring listeners is incredibly difficult. But it still has been surprising. The thing that has been equally as surprising, though, is the depth of the relationships that I think we've been able to build. So while the sheer numbers of the podcast have not been as huge as I thought in terms of number of downloads, the relational impact, the value of the network that we've been able to build has been just as the opposite, right? It's a mirror image. It's been far deeper. We're planting much deeper roots than I thought possible through this podcast.
No, I agree with you on that. And I think, the stories are countless at this point of the cross networking relationships we're able to weave. And so it's been cool because we have both at times been able to reach out to the network that we've built through the podcast with questions or ideas or suggestions, but we've also been able to introduce folks to each other. And so that's been a very joyful thing as we continue to do this, and more of that to come. But, as we start to look here into 2025, as we hit the 100 episode mark, the 2-year mark, one of the things I'm super excited about is that I think we've started to feel comfortable in who we're trying to serve, what that audience looks like. As we continue to have these conversations with our guests, one of the things that comes to my mind is Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets. And for those of you who have not checked that book out, I've read it multiple times and I absolutely love it because it really is a blueprint for building a business. Who is your audience? Who is your customers? Who are you trying to serve? And, as you and I have looked at different business ideas, we really looked through that framework. But we've approached, I think, this podcast and what we're building on YouTube with a same level of excitement of, hey, it takes a while to kind of find your voice and find who you're trying to reach. But in that, I think we're starting to get some clarity and we're getting some excitement. What do you think?
Yeah. And I think it may be interesting for our listeners to even just hear what that process has looked like for us, the journey of Abundant Journey, because I think back to almost a year ago now, when you and I were driving up to Seattle, we were doing an in-person interview, one of my favorite interviews of all time with Dave. And I remember we spent about half of that drive just trying to hash out who are we talking to? Who is our ideal listener? Who are we trying to help? And I think that, it kind of felt like there were 5 different potential avatars to, use a impersonal word of are we trying to help people that are just wanting to do a side hustle? Are we trying to help people that want to start a true business but haven't done it yet? Are we helping current business owners? Are we helping seasoned and super successful business owners? And I remember that was for the better part of a year, maybe longer, just kind of a constant conversation. And I am glad that I think we're emerging with some clarity there. And I think it would be interesting to talk about the process of how we're coming to that clarity.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think as you start to find your voice and I say you as a more generalized, but maybe bring it more personal, right? So as we started, Abundant Journey, the concept of it was honestly back to 2020, where I was looking at doing a lot of real estate syndication stuff with trying to bring on passive investors. And we were trying to say, all right, how do we make a difference? And, that heartbeat in and there's past episodes we've talked about that of, man, there's a passion to help people succeed, but not to buy 4 or 5 vacation homes and big yachts and, to be that true anti-hustle culture. But our heart has been, how do we surround ourselves and help inspire and educate people to grow and scale in a way that they can really have true time freedom so that they can use that freedom to make a difference in their community, make a difference in their families, make a difference in their passions or their skill set that they're gifted at. And so that was really the starting point. And I think to what you're sharing here, it's like how through the last couple of years, what has that looked like and what has that journey looked like? So I think first and foremost for us, it started with saying, all right, who are like-minded people and who are the people that we want to be like? Let's have conversations with them. And I think we've done that for 2 years is, hey, we've gotten in the room with folks running multi-million and multi-billion-dollar a year companies. And we've said, hey, what have you done that other people don't do? And how have you done it? But more importantly, what's your why? And I think that's been really the undertone and the current of the last couple of years in the conversations we've had.
Yeah, agreed. Like that, the common thread between all of our guests has been a commitment to an abundance mindset, seeing the world as a place that's teeming with potential, and that whole proverbial, like not fighting for a piece of the pie, but going out and creating more pies. The radical generosity, kind of I think I always think back to the Joel Anderson episode, but like that whole idea of profits with a purpose, that it's not all about the number of zeros in the bank account at the end of the day. It's about the sort of impact that you're able to make in the world, the lives that you're able to change, the legacy that you're able to leave behind. Mm-hmm. There's been a common theme with the core, the 5 F's of Abundant Journey, where people have shared those values. So there's definitely been like that theme to all of our guests. I think it has felt pretty broad, though, in context of like, we've had on Yia Vang, who's a restaurateur. We've had on Bronson Hill, who's doing real estate syndication. And we've kind of had everybody in between. We've had Galena Compass, flower farmer. I mean, we've had entrepreneurs who have bought 40 to 50 businesses and scaled them. I mean, you're not kidding. We've had a huge range. And I think that's led to robust conversations. It's led to a robust network. However, in that, I left that pause intentionally. However, I think that for us, getting that clarity, getting that laser focused, we hear so often, time and time again, you can't serve everybody. Businesses, for them to be successful, for them to grow, for them to scale, you have to know your customer. You have to know who your audience is. So I think for us, again, we've teased it a little bit, but I think we're really excited for the direction that we're going. One of the things we've recognized is we are both in a unique season in that we are trying to grow and scale our own businesses. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I think there's so much power in not only being an interviewer and interviewing people who've done amazing things, but then, and this goes back to Yia, like you have to take all that wisdom that has been instilled to you. You gotta, and he literally metaphorically says, you gotta break that piggy bank and go do something. And so for you and I think we've been really excited because we're recognizing that we are entrepreneurs at heart. We are entrepreneurs in practice, and we want to now actually take the lessons and wisdom that we've been given over the last couple of years and really document our journey as we grow and scale our businesses. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, absolutely. And just to put an exclamation point on what you said a moment ago, like if you're trying to serve everybody, you ultimately end up serving Nobody. And I think that it's taken us a while to really figure out, okay, who are we best suited to serve? And I think that some of that does come out of our own personal journeys, right? Like we're really able to speak to people that are in a similar stage and season. And I think that's really cool because it means that as we continue to interview guests, we're going to be asking questions that are like immediately applicable to you and I as we're trying to build and scale our
100%.
businesses. And as we do more episodes like this of just you and I sharing the journey of building our businesses, which hopefully, feels for our listeners that it's more like going shoulder to shoulder.
Totally.
Now, I think we've kind of danced around it. We have not explicitly said who, what the new focus actually looks like.
Yeah.
So, for anybody who's just being driven crazy by us kind of making implicit hints, do you want to go ahead and make it explicit of like, all right, what's the refined direction of the podcast, my friend?
No, I love it. And I think we're going to expand beyond the podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in the next few minutes. But, as we've reflected and said, who the conversations we're having, the people we're talking with, what part of their story really resonates with us. And I think it is more of the beginning of the journey. It is a recognition that for most of our guests and for where you and I actively are is, hey, we are in that you're grinding. You thought that becoming an entrepreneur, you were going to have all of this freedom, and you've quickly recognized that you've become a slave to your job. And maybe not everybody feels that way, but as we've done some research, statistically, the SBA, Small Business Administration within the government, says that over 90% of businesses in the country never make it past the $1 million mark in revenue. And I think why that's significant is that if you're under that $1 million mark, unless you're really, really good at systematizing things and you are a master at recruiting and hiring and being able to, control the different levers of the business, chances are you're wearing multiple hats, if not all the hats. You're the solopreneur. You're the person, who's doing the marketing. You're doing the sales. You're doing this service. You're doing the manufacturing. Like whatever it is, you're probably doing most, if not all of the business. And what we know as we've continued to have so many conversations with our guests who have grown and scaled is you can't do it all. And if you continue to try to do it all, you will be in a place where you're going to be miserable. And there's been many points in, I think, the last couple of years, we've had conversations where our guests have said, man, I was doing everything and I was working 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week, and I wasn't even making as much as I was making when I left my W-2.
Right.
So I'm working more, but yet at the same time getting paid less. And so I think for us, there's been an understanding as we've both stepped into business ownership. And I'm going to give a tease just real quick, but I actually bought a business earlier this year, and we're going to roll that out on the YouTube channel as I will get to document that journey over the last half a year or so and what that process has looked like. But as you and I are both in business ownership roles, I think we're feeling a little bit of that of, man, we are wearing multiple hats. How do we scale? How do we grow? How do we do the things that are needed to get the business to a place where we can focus on the things we're passionate about?
Yeah. Yeah. So to put a really fine point on it, the renewed focus for Abundant Journey and the content that we're creating is intended to help current business owners cross that $1 million a year threshold to be in the top 10% of businesses anywhere in the United States, because that statistic, like you said, 90% of businesses don't make it there. And that's why I think for 90% of business owners, it does feel like a grind. Like you traded your golden handcuffs at your W-2 for a prison of your own making, and it's
true.
like, I don't know what's better.
Yeah.
But the thing with the business ownership versus the golden handcuffs and the W-2 is with business ownership, like there is a much higher potential. You don't have a ceiling set on what you can do like you do in a W-2 job where you're working for somebody else. Like when you're the business owner, it might suck where you're at right now. You might feel like you're in a prison, but we want for the content of this show, of what we're doing on YouTube, everything that we put out to really be geared towards helping current business owners experience that full potential in their business and cross that $1 million a year threshold.
And I love that. I think you summarized that really well. I think what I would add is, there's probably folks who listen who haven't taken that step, haven't taken that jump. And up until 5 months ago, I was in that. Like right. I finally took that step. And so we're by no means wanting to alienate anybody and say, hey, you're not for us, because we recognize that there's people, whether it be circumstances or maybe it's fear. It takes that first plunge, that first jump, that massive action. And we want to help you get there as well. But I think, like you're saying, we're recognizing we get to be a voice in our own journeys as we're going through this. And in addition to that, I think a lot of the wisdom and a lot of the nuggets and a lot of the experience from the guests that we've had have really been oriented around people in that of, man, at one point I was grinding. I know what it was like to have left the job and, sleeping on the floor and wondering if we're going to make it and, not being able to see my family at night for a while. We want to get people out of that. We want to get people progressing and scaling their businesses who maybe just don't know how to do that. So What do you think?
Yeah, I wholly agree with that. And I know that some of our most faithful listeners are still in that, like the planning, the negative way of saying it, right, would be the wantrepreneur phase, which I say that having been a wantrepreneur for many years and in a lot of ways, still feeling like one, I suppose, to a degree. But and I think that the lessons that we continue to unearth and share on the show are going to be beneficial to those folks, because if you truly are like experience entrepreneurship as a calling, if you have an idea for a business or you're going to buy a business, you're going to do something in the world that's your own. I believe that you're going to find a way to take that jump and to do it. And the timing's going to be right. And so hopefully, we're not at all trying to isolate folks. The lessons that you'll continue to gain from this show, you just want to keep tucking those away because you're creating categories for you for when you can use them in the next year or two. But it is sort of funny, like once you take the jump from wantrepreneur to like, now I have a business. I'm doing it. I'm an entrepreneur. I think you immediately take off the wantrepreneur hat and put on the imposter syndrome hat. It's just like you go from one feeling of fake to another of just that it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And every single day feels like I am one step away from all of this blowing up and me having to go and apply for another job because I just couldn't figure it out or couldn't hang with it. And I think in those early phases when you're grinding, you feel like an idiot a lot of the time, and everybody around you is just like, I don't know that they're going to make it. And so, yes, that's really the hope in our interviews and going forward, is that we can really speak to that. How do you push through the imposter syndrome that comes along with being a newer business owner or somebody that's struggling to really experience the success that you dreamed of when you set out to start your business?
No, I love that. And then I think all of the things that were promised to you from the social media gurus who may or may not have actually done what they are telling you they're doing, that all goes out the window because you're living it. And so you either got to press in and get going, or you're right, you got to find another job. And And, I think you summarized that well. So as we are looking ahead here and as we are approaching the podcast and what we're building here with some renewed vision and an excitement to help business owners grow and scale their businesses and really kind of shift some of the questions and the people that we're interviewing, shifting there a little bit as well. What are some other things that we are excited about? Because we're not just going to be looking at doing a podcast, but I think we're trying to expand a bit beyond that.
Yeah. There's multiple things. So the video content has been huge. Like I've loved doing the podcast, but I think that and we'll continue to do that. But I think there's even more opportunity to create more targeted kind of quick hit content and to leverage YouTube in ways. This more long form format that we've done with the podcast is great for being able to have extended conversations to really get into the granular details of somebody's story. But I also know that sometimes you just want really applicable advice that's tailored to, I'm stuck in this very particular spot and I just need somebody to speak to that. And so we are hoping to revisit a lot of the guests that we've had on the show and ask them very specific questions about, all right, when you're stuck, I feel like your business has plateaued at this monthly income, what do you do? What did you do to get yourself unstuck? And so the YouTube content, I think, is going to be a big one, and having this sort of new segment of essentially specials and quick hit advice. Yeah. What else you got?
No, I love that. I think that you said it well, but I would just add in addition to that, some of those kinds of questions that business owners face, how do I do marketing? How do I build brand awareness? How do I build an audience? How do I, raise capital? What is the pitch that I'm doing? So again, I don't know that we're not committed to being one industry specific. I think we're trying to ask the questions that every business asks and every business deals with, whether you're a service business or you're an online business or you're a manufacturing business, a coaching business and consulting business. We've had such a range of guests on, but I think the questions that we're excited to be asking are very applicable to all of those types of industries. So I would add that. The other thing we're super excited about, and again, we've teased a little bit, is as we both continue to grow our own businesses, we have always wanted to be very authentic, very transparent on our journeys as well. I think that how many times have we heard from our guests, like, you learn more in the failures. You learn more when you make the mistakes. You learn more when you fall flat on your face. And so I'm actually excited that we're both going to be spending some time. I have a more structured format than you, but we're both going to be diving into our journeys and what's gotten us to where we are today with our businesses and how we're going to be growing them. What's fun for me is, and I'm not going to give too much away here, but as I mentioned, bought a business about 5 months ago. It's a service business. And on top of that, as we stand today, it is on the other side of the country. So there is so much that I'm learning as I've left the bank. I am no longer an employee. We are currently trailblazing for our family, a new business venture. I purchased it. I'm excited to talk about all of the things that I've learned through the process of buying the business and, looking to qualify it and meeting the owner and flying across country to check out the business. Like, I'm really excited about that whole series because it's going to be really a look behind the curtains on what this process has looked like. And man, there's been some stories already of falling flat on my face and some mistakes made, but we've made some money and we're having a good time with it. So that's something I think we're excited about, is really just to both document our journeys. I know you've been grinding on a few new ventures. Tell us about what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. For one, I mean, I just, for our listeners, for everybody, like, that's something to really celebrate, that man, you quit the bank. You do need to change your voicemail, by the way.
I do.
I've called you a couple of times. I got in that voicemail and still says that you're working at the bank, which anyhow, I've been meaning to tell you that. So just I love it. Felt like right now is the most appropriate moment to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on just a minute.
Yeah. So yes, that's huge. And I really cannot wait for you to start rolling out that content and sharing the journey, because that's going to be both really entertaining. You've had some great stories.
Oh man.
And it'll be really valuable for our listeners, and just fun to come along with you in that. And
totally.
I just hit my 1 year anniversary from when I left working for a builder, which was a W-2 position, to going out on my own to start my own real estate business. Yeah. And so made it a whole year, even over a year. That's awesome. Exceeded my first year goals in terms of total sales. And so really grateful for that. And I don't know if it's because of the shiny object syndrome, or if I just, I don't know if it's a personality flaw or if it's a good thing. But in the midst of building the Tartan team, about 6 months ago, I had another idea that was adjacent to Tartan Team that I thought would be a good complement. I haven't been super public about this new business venture yet, but it's an online based business, essentially a coaching program in the real estate industry that I'm really, really excited about and have been really hard at work on. And so that's also something that I'm looking forward to documenting, because it's, while the model of a coaching business is well established, exactly what I'm doing in the real estate industry is a pretty new niche and opportunity. And so I think it'll be fun for our listeners to follow along as you've bought an existing business that has several years of history, and there's a big vision that you have for turning that around. You're working in a really established industry, but trying to elevate it in exciting ways, innovative ways. I think that'll be really cool. And then I think it'll be a nice complement where I'm building something from ground zero, and that there really isn't much of an established model or direct competition in the space that I'm building in. And so it feels like a big swing of that, man, I'm either going to strike out pretty quickly here, or it could go really well. Yeah. So
well, we're hoping.
I don't know how that is for a teaser. Yeah,
man, we're hoping for the latter. But as you and I mean, of course, we've had offline conversations about all of this stuff, and there's been so much growth and so much lessons learned for both of us. And I love going back to this. All of our guests echo it, but I don't think anybody said it as clearly as Emily Courtwright in like episode 3 or 4 from the entire podcast series we've done on Abundant Journey. And it was, you have to take massive action. And I think we titled the episode that because she just said it so well, and it has just rang true for both you and I. And so this is the plug for the person on the sidelines. Massive action. We've taken action for 2 years. Even though I just bought a business 4 months ago, taking action looked like interviewing and asking questions and researching. It doesn't always have to be making sales calls or pitching a business or buying real estate. That's kind of the end result of taking action, really, on all of that. And so you and I, you for the last 6 months, me for the last 4 or 5 months with buying the business. I mean, we both have had to take action. And so I think that's something we're both excited to share more and more about our experiences in taking action, because man, we both have grown so much because of that.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. And I think that is a good qualifier that you put on there of the taking massive action surprisingly doesn't always look massive from an outside perspective. But like an individual podcast episode does not feel like a huge consequential step in and of itself, but the cumulative effect of doing this for 2 years, having nearly 100 episodes and well over 80 conversations with individuals, that's pretty massive in its overall effect on us. I know that there's been a broader effect of that. Anyhow, just to really double down on what it is that you're saying, massive action doesn't need to be something that's really complicated, not even something that's really difficult. It just needs to be something that you're really committed to, that you're really consistent in, something that's simple, but gets you going in the direction that you ultimately want to be headed in life.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. That's a quote for the ages there. But I again, it's a reflection point it's a reflection point, I think, on all the conversations that we've had, is because that has been the catalyst for every single one of our guests who have built, again, I'll say it, multi-million and multi-billion-dollar a year companies.
Right.
Is it started with taking action. And so you just can't emphasize that enough, and it has to be continued to be said. So, man, as we look forward here, one of the things we've been super passionate about is not just being the guys on the mic, but really building. We've said network. I want to shift that word a little bit and say we've been really excited about and passionate about building a community. And I think that community aspect is essential. We believe that both with our background in faith and all of that. But man, we've said it so many times on this podcast. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we recognize that all of the steps that we've taken in our journeys have really been because of others have believed in us, because others have taught us, because others have invested into us. And so as we look ahead and as we continue to build on our own journeys, also continue to dive in to try to help business owners who are in the grind and growing and scaling, we really want to emphasize this community aspect. What are some ways we want our listeners and our audience and folks that we're talking with, how do we want them to be involved?
Yeah. I mean, there's several ways, and it could be as simple as just leaving a comment, whether you're watching this on YouTube. Spotify, I believe, now allows you to leave a comment on an episode. And I mean, that's just a very simple way to give some feedback on the show, to ask a question or to share something that was a highlight for you that you're going to take away for your business. While that might feel inconsequential, it helps on so many levels. Like, it's not just us that will see and respond to your comment. It's everybody else on the interwebs that comes across it. That is you actively participating in the show and in the community and adding value in your own way to what it is that we're saying here. So just to take that next step, instead of just being a passive listener, to contribute by leaving a comment. And then I think that's probably one of the simplest ways that people can actively engage. Continuing, like subscribing, leaving a review, all of those things are, you hear it all the time on every single podcast or YouTube video that you engage with. But there's a reason. So true. Yeah, exactly. That hey, if you find value in what's happening here, the way that you show that to the world is by subscribing to the channel, leaving a review. And that tells the algorithm, hey, there's something good here that needs to be pushed out to more people to engage with. Totally. And so as a smaller show, even that little step helps a tremendous amount with helping us find our people and develop a larger community around the message that we're bringing here. What are some of your thoughts?
I love that. And I think, it's a small ask, but it creates a big impact. There's nothing on the show that we sell. There's nothing that we market. We're literally at this point in time just focused on really building the community. And I think on top of that, giving the wisdom from just amazing, world-class experience as we've continued to have some of those awesome conversations. And so I think you're right. We've heard so many times from people who are really big in the social media space, that the hardest thing is to break through because no one knows you. That's the problem is, you are one of millions and billions of people trying to break through in that regard. And so I think that's one thing. Another thing that I would really press in on is, as you listen, as you are hearing the conversations we're having, if folks in your community, if folks in your network come to mind of being good guests on the show, please let us know. We would love to have them on. Really, we're looking for folks who have been successful, who have grown amazing businesses, who have built teams and built systems and built processes and are willing to share their journey. And then part B to that is who have a passion to help the world, who have a passion to make a difference, who have a passion to not be slaves to a job, but they realize that they want to steward and serve their customers. And, kind of going back to the 5 F's of Abundant Journey, we have, I don't think we've said it to the audience, but I think for about 6 months, we have, all of the guests that we've had on have literally been referrals and have been word of mouth. Hey, you should be on this podcast too. And we want that to continue. I mean, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about it being organic of, hey, the folks that we're talking to are amazing people and they've been introduced to us from other amazing guests that we've had. And so I would really press in and say, those are the kind of people we want you to keep sending our way.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. We love those introductions. And yeah, it really, if you have somebody that comes to mind that like they built a business and they're doing around or over $1 million in revenue, like we want to talk with them, and share the story. And I do think that we kind of touched on it earlier, but we will continue to have the breadth of business owners. Like it doesn't need to be in a particular niche or industry. Yeah. And I believe that there's actually a ton of value in that, because sometimes the main issue is like if let's just say, if you're running a restaurant and all you ever do is listen to other restaurateurs about how they're trying to achieve success in a restaurant, that can be valuable. But sometimes you need to come out of that bubble and hear from somebody that's building a local real estate development company and think about like, oh, like they tried this for marketing and that worked really well. Nobody within the restaurant industry is doing that, but I actually see a parallel. Maybe I should try that. Anyhow, I just think that idea of cross-pollination between different 100%. Industries and niches is going to be a unique value by having a wide breadth of industries represented on the show.
I love it. The other thing I'd add here as we're getting ready to probably wrap this one up, but I would also add, as we are being laser focused with helping existing entrepreneurs and business owners grow and scale, inevitably there's questions and problems and hurdles that you guys are facing every day that you need help navigating. You need help getting over the hump. You need help answering or problem solving. And that goes back to that community passion and aspect of, we have surrounded ourselves with, almost 100 entrepreneurs who've been successful at this point. And we have the ability to ask them those questions. We have the ability to do, if we start getting questions that are similar in nature, and we have one of our past guests who tackled that well, let's plug in a 30-minute YouTube special and just dive into that topic. That way we can dive into practical advice of people who have lived it and maybe can give you some ideas, maybe can give you some inspiration on how to overcome that. I think there's so much power in recognizing that you're not alone in the problems you face, the questions you're trying to solve, the challenges that you have. The more you recognize other people have been there and done that, and the more you have access to how you get over that, the quicker you're going to grow, the better you're going to scale.
For sure, man. Want to go far? Go together.
That's it.
And that's what we're here to help each other do, is to go further than you thought possible in your business by giving you that community aspect that you need, and being able to connect you with the right people to answer the questions on the areas where you're feeling stuck. So I'm really excited about the future. I'm grateful for the last couple of years and the foundation that we've been able to lay. I think that it's taken that long to get this clarity of direction. And I think that it's cool how it's followed our own journey from being on the sidelines and W-2 roles to actually stepping in and now wanting to build really successful businesses. And so I'm excited to ask people that have gone ahead of us, and I'm excited to share our own journeys with everybody as we're figuring it out for better and worse.
That's it, man. No, I love it. I'm excited. Again, there's a moment where we get a pause and just say, man, it's been an amazing couple of years. And I think we'll spend some more time talking about that as we go into 2025, but excited to have the audience go with us, excited to keep building the community. I'm going to ask you this. You oftentimes say it for most episodes, but with folks, how do we want to send our guests to follow along with the journey? What are the different maybe handles or, ways that folks can engage with us via email, Instagram? Tell folks how to find us and start dialoguing with us.
Yeah, pretty much on all social medias at Abundant Journey. Somehow we were able to land that one, which is pretty cool. So you can search Abundant Journey. We still have the website abundantjourney.net, and so you're able to go there, and that's kind of got the collection of resources. We got to talk about the newsletter reboot, but if anybody wants to reach out to us directly, we're most active on Instagram and YouTube. And so if it's easiest for you to leave a comment or shoot us a DM on Instagram, we will definitely see and respond to that. And then you can get in touch with both of us by simply sending an email to hello@abundantjourney.net. And that can be a great way to connect there as well, especially if you got a guest that you want to make an introduction to or a specific question that you'd like to see us tackle on the show.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, again, audience, thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for sticking with us through those early episodes where we fumbled about our words, didn't know the questions we were asking. Again, that might be some more reflection on the 2 years of podcasting. And, you got to learn by doing it, and you got to fall on your face a few times there. But it has been a great couple years. Again, thank you. We do it to continue to invest. We do it to continue to build the community. And we are passionate about making a difference in the world. So thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you next week.